Was that the bite of 87?
Isn't it crazy how this was the most important piece of lore in the first game? Then the second game came around and put a lot more emphasis on the missing children's incident, but we didn't forget about the bite. Then the third game was clearly meant to elaborate on the story of the missing children's incident. Then the fourth game showed up, shouted fuck you to everyone, and showed us a bite that wasn't one we had ever heard of.
Was that the bite of 87?
Ha! No it wasn't, you daft fool! If you walk over to the 8-bit TV, you'll see it clearly says 1983 right on it. So of course this isn't the event that we've been talking about for an entire year. You morons. After the fourth game broke the mind of the crying child as well as the minds of every single FNAF fan, the bite of 87 was now completely irrelevant all around. Since the saga of the bite had completely faded away by the fourth game, I think everyone assumed that that meant we had everything that was needed to figure out who the victim was and who did the bite. There's a very popular theory that has been unanimously agreed upon. Mangle did the bite of 87, and our FNAF 2 protagonist was the victim. Mangle attacks from the top, and their mouth seems to be headed for the top of our head. Mangle also does have a very loose, long, and wide jaw. This was all the information that we were ever given, but because of that, it is not a satisfying answer for me whatsoever. That evidence itself isn't wrong, and I'm not claiming that it doesn't work, but a lot of the other details of the incident and Freddy's as a whole makes this theory really awkward. First of all, if Jeremy is the bite victim, that means Jeremy is still alive. When Phone Guy mentions the devastating bite of 87 for the first time, he directly says, "It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe." Whoever got bit by an animatronic at Freddy's is still alive and able to function even if they are now simply disabled. This technically doesn't disprove the theory. It would still make complete sense for Jeremy to not be the night guard on night 6, but I feel like it's very much implied that Jeremy does die. But again, that does not disprove the theory. Jeremy gets bit, let's say on night 5, and due to his disability caused by the bite, Fritz is his replacement. And the reason Phone Guy doesn't bring up the incident on night 6 is that the voicemails are all pre-recorded. Interestingly, this does confirm that Jeremy from FNAF 2 and Jeremy from Help Wanted are completely different, because Jeremy in Help Wanted expresses lots of discomfort and fear, but the FNAF 2 Jeremy probably wouldn't be able to feel that type of way after the bite. I'm not saying there are people claiming these two identities are related, but the repeated use of the name is confusing, so anything like that can be helpful. However, again, I don't really believe that Jeremy being the bite victim was ever meant to be implied, and that's mainly because of the consequences following the incident. In Five Nights 1, we are told without any room for interpretation that these animatronics are not allowed to walk around during the day. They used to be able to, until the event that was the bite of 87. I have no choice but to ask why the animatronics' behavior during the day would change if the bite happened at night, when there was no one else around. I guess that would decrease the chance of it happening again, but the bite happening at night opens a lot of problems. How did it get out that an animatronic bit off someone's frontal lobe? How does anyone even know that an animatronic did it? Wouldn't it be safe to keep the animatronics the same during the day as long as the employees were watching them closely like they should be doing anyway? It just doesn't make sense to me that the bite of 87 happened to a night guard in 1987, and that resulted in the animatronics not being able to walk around during the day 6 years later. It just doesn't feel like there's a purpose to that. Let's say it is 100% accurate that Mangle bit Jeremy's frontal lobe off during his shift in 1987. That would mean Jeremy from FNAF 2 is still alive, the FNAF 2 location wasn't closed after the incident, someone replaced Jeremy immediately after, the bite of 87 took place at night, the bite victim wasn't a child, nobody would know who actually bit Jeremy unless he was well enough to remember everything about the incident. The public was able to learn all of these details, hence Fazbear Entertainment having to change their policies unless they did that by choice. Something about all that just doesn't feel right. After so many child victims existing in this series, and yet this one, from a clearly noteworthy event, is an adult. That serves no lore significance. Nobody was even there to witness the event? The theory still isn't impossible, but these circumstances are so weird and awkward and make all of this seem less chilling and more goofy. But the problem with not believing in this theory is not having another answer. The bite victim isn't the crying child, Mike Lafton, William Afton, Henry, Charlotte, Elizabeth, or any of these fuckers. So who is it? I guess it could technically be one of the 8-bit kids from FNAF 4. That's one of the few times we meet another child that doesn't have a confirmed death, and also isn't just a template with no dialogue. Maybe it's one of the 3 bullies and the biter is the animatronic they're associated with. Maybe it never even happened and Phone Guy is an absolute crazy bitch. I have no idea. As far as putting a timeline together, this theory has to work for now. And probably forever, too. There's no way these future games, distancing away from so much of the original material, will be returning to this event that was only important 7 years ago. But something about the Mangle and Jeremy theory doesn't work for me. What do you guys think? Do you think the specifics are unimportant enough to ignore, or do you think we're missing something that leads to these answers? Let me know, because this is a detail that's been left in the dust, and I want some sort of discussion to lead to a real, satisfying answer.